You want to sleep, but you have no bed, no door, no electricity, no phone, no walls, nothing. There is only a dark forest, cold ground, an animal skin over your shoulders, and a weak fire separating you from the endless night. How do you sleep? How do you survive? So what did ancient humans do after sunset? Did they simply sleep? Did they shake from fear? Did they freeze? Did they wait for morning? Or did something important happen at night? The answer is much more interesting than it seems, because for ancient humans, night was not just a time for sleep. It was a test, a school of survival, a time of stories, fear, fire, stars, conversations, and strange wakefulness in the middle of darkness. And maybe it was the night that made us who we are today. During the day, ancient humans could at least see the world around them. They could look for food, follow tracks, gather plants, hunt, watch children, search for water, and notice danger from far away. Daylight gave humans their greatest advantage, sight. But when the sun disappeared, that advantage disappeared with it. The forest became strange. The shadows grew deeper. Every bush could hide an animal. Every rustle sounded dangerous. And the scariest part was this. Many predators became more active at exactly this time. Wolves, hyenas, lions, leopards, big cats. For them, darkness was not a problem. It was a weapon. They could see better, hear better, smell better, and move almost silently. But at night, a human became slow, blind, and vulnerable. If an ancient human had simply lain down under a tree and fallen asleep, their chances of surviving until morning would not have been very high. So the first thing people did after darkness fell was gather together. One person at night was weak. A group of people at night was something very different. If someone heard a strange sound, they could wake the others. If an animal came too close, several people could shout, grab sticks, stones, or spears, and scare it away. If it was cold, people warmed each other. If a child woke up, an adult was nearby. If someone was afraid, they could hear the breathing of other people and understand. They were not alone. For an ancient human, the group was not just company. It was protection, home, and insurance against death. That is why people tried to stay close to each other at night. They chose places that could be defended, caves, rocky shelters, areas near large stones, places where danger could only come from one direction. A cave was almost the perfect shelter. It had an entrance. That meant an enemy could not appear from anywhere. People could sit with their backs against the stone wall and watch the only place where danger could come from. It was the ancient version of a door, a wall, and an alarm system. Only instead of a lock, there was fire, spears, and watchful eyes. But the real revolution began when humans learned to control fire. Fire changed the night. Before fire, darkness belonged to the animals. After fire, humans had their own small island of light. A campfire gave warmth. It helped cook food. It scared away insects. It lit up people's faces. But most importantly, it created a border. On one side was the human. On the other side was the dark forest. For a predator, fire was strange and frightening. Animals felt the heat, saw the movement of the flames, heard the crackling wood, and smelled the smoke. Most animals did not want to come too close. Fire was not a real wall, but in the animal world, it worked almost like one. As long as the fire was burning, the night was no longer completely black. Inside the circle of light, another kind of life began. And this is where things become especially interesting, because for ancient humans, night was not only a time of fear. When the work of the day was finished, people sat around the fire. They could no longer hunt properly, walk far, or gather plants, but they could do something that became one of humanity's greatest strengths. They could talk. During the day, conversations were usually practical: where to go, where to find food, who had seen animal tracks, what needed to be repaired, which place was dangerous. But at night, conversations changed. Around the fire, people told stories. They remembered those who had lived before them. They told stories about how a river appeared, why animals behave the way they do, how one hunter made a mistake and nearly died, how another showed courage, why you must not betray your own people, why food must be shared, which spirits should be feared, which rules must never be broken. To us, this may sound like fairy tales, but for them, it was the memory of the tribe. Without books, writing, schools, or the internet, stories were the way knowledge survived. If a child heard a story about a person who went out alone at night and never came back, the child remembered, "Do not walk alone at night." If a young hunter listened to a story about an animal pretending to be weak, he learned caution. If someone heard a story about a greedy person who lost everyone's respect, he understood the value of the group. The campfire was the ancient screen. Elders were the first storytellers. Night was humanity's first movie theater. It was there that people learned to think not only about what was happening now, but also about what had happened before, what could happen next, and how one action could change the fate of everyone. Stories made people human. They taught imagination, empathy, memory, and rules. They connected generations. Night, which seemed like a time of danger, became a time of culture. But what about sleep?
If you watch it this far, please give it a like.
We are used to thinking that normal sleep means lying down in the evening and waking up in the morning. One long sleep, 8 hours straight. If a person wakes up at 3 in the morning and cannot fall asleep for a while, they often think something is wrong with them. But for people in the past, this may have been completely normal. For much of history, people often did not sleep in one long block, but in two parts. First came the first sleep. A person would go to sleep soon after darkness fell, sleep for several hours, and then wake up in the middle of the night, not in panic, not from fear. They simply woke up, as if that was how it was supposed to be. Then they could stay awake for an hour or two, and later fall asleep again until morning. During this nighttime waking period, people did different things. Someone kept the fire alive, someone prayed, someone thought about dreams, someone talked quietly, someone fed a child, someone checked on animals, someone simply lay there and looked into the darkness. Imagine that feeling. Everything around you is quiet. Most people are asleep. The fire crackles softly. Beyond the circle of light, the sounds of the night can be heard. You are not working, not running, not looking at a screen. You are simply existing in the middle of the night. To a modern person, this may seem strange. To an ancient person, it was natural. Maybe when you wake up at night for no clear reason and lie there with a clear mind for a while, it is not always a malfunction. Maybe it is an ancient rhythm that still lives inside us. Ancient people did not simply fall to the ground and sleep wherever they happened to be. Over time, they learned to make sleep safer and more comfortable. They used grass, leaves, animal skins, and soft plants. They made sleeping places so they did not have to lie directly on the cold ground. In some places, people used ash from the fire. Ash helped keep insects away. This seems like a small detail, but it was actually a huge discovery. Someone long ago woke up covered in insect bites, noticed that there were fewer insects near ash, tried putting ash under the sleeping area, and realized it worked. Then others copied it. That is how a small piece of knowledge appeared and improved life for the whole group. It was not science in the modern sense, but the principle was the same: observe, try, remember, and pass it on. Ancient people were not stupid creatures who simply feared the dark. They were constantly solving problems. How to sleep warmer, how not to freeze, how not to be bitten, how not to attract animals, how to hear danger, and how to survive until morning. In cold places, night was especially dangerous. Sometimes the main enemy was not a predator, but frost. If a person fell asleep alone, they might never wake up. So people slept closer together. Their bodies held warmth. The group became a living blanket. Children could sleep in the center, adults closer to the edges, and the weak received more protection. Night showed how much humans depended on each other. One person could be smart, strong, and brave. But it was not individual strength that survived. The group survived. And not everyone in the group slept the same way. Someone slept more deeply. Someone woke up from the smallest sound. Someone turned over often. Someone got up to check the fire. Someone heard footsteps before the others. This created a natural security system. While some slept deeply, others slept lightly. While some rested, others might accidentally hear danger. The night was too dangerous for humans to fully switch off. That is why human sleep became alert. Even today, the brain of a sleeping person continues to react to important sounds. A sharp crack, footsteps, a voice, a child crying, something unusual nearby. This is an ancient warning system. Once, it could decide who survived the night and who did not. But night was not only about sleep, fire, and safety. For many ancient peoples, it was a time of spirits and signs. When the sun went below the horizon, the world became different. During the day, everything was visible and clear. At night, stars appeared, the moon appeared, shadows appeared, dreams appeared, and strange sounds filled the dark. All of it seemed full of meaning. People looked at the sky and tried to understand what it was saying. Stars helped them find direction. The moon helped them count time. The movement of the sky was connected to hunting, weather, birth, death, and fate. To us, the night sky is often just a beautiful background. To ancient people, it was a map, a clock, a calendar, and sometimes a sacred book. Dreams were also taken seriously. If a person dreamed of an animal, a dead relative, or a strange place, it could be seen as a sign. People discussed dreams, tried to understand them, and searched for warnings inside them. Night gave people something that day did not, a feeling of mystery. In the darkness, humans began to ask questions that had no simple answers. Who are we? Where did we come from? Why do we die? What happens after death? Why does the sun leave and return? Why do the stars move? Maybe it was the night that made humans look not only at the ground, but also up at the sky. Some people used the night for work. That sounds surprising, but darkness sometimes helped. If you needed to watch the fire, it was easier to see the color of the flame at night. If you needed to watch the stars, you could only do that at night. If the day was too hot, some work was moved into the dark hours. In dry places, people could water plants at night so the water would not evaporate too quickly. Sailors and travelers used the stars to find their way. They knew which stars appeared at what time of year, where they rose, and where they disappeared. For them, the night sky was not romance. It was a survival tool. Ancient people did not simply fear the night. They learned how to use it. But the main stage of nightlife was still the campfire. Imagine Uga. The day has been long. He is tired. His legs hurt. There is a little food in his stomach. A child sleeps nearby. Someone repairs a spear. Someone adds branches to the fire. Someone tells a story quietly. Beyond the light, the forest moves. Sometimes a howl comes from the darkness. Everyone freezes for a second. Then they understand. It is far away. The conversation continues. Someone laughs. Someone remembers a person who died. Someone talks about tomorrow's hunt. Someone looks at the stars. Someone is already asleep. There is something deeply human in this. Despite fear, cold, and danger, people did not simply wait for the night to end. They lived inside it. They created warmth. They created meaning. They created memory. They created rules. They created stories. And if you think about it, we still do the same thing. We gather in the evening, turn on lights, watch movies, tell stories, listen to other people's voices, and try to understand ourselves through other people's lives. Only our campfire has become a screen, and our ancient fears have never fully disappeared. That is why we still enjoy scary stories at night. That is why a dark forest feels frightening. That is why a sudden sound outside the window makes the heart beat faster. Somewhere deep inside, we still remember that night was once a real border between life and death. So what did ancient humans do after sunset? They protected themselves, warmed themselves, slept, woke up, watched the fire, listened to the forest, told stories, looked at the stars, tried to understand dreams, and learned to live in a world where half of every day belonged to darkness. They did not fully defeat the night. They did something more important. They learned to live beside it. And maybe that is one of the strongest secrets of humanity. We did not become great because we were never afraid. We became great because we were afraid, but still gathered around the fire, spoke, thought, remembered, and waited for sunrise. If you are awake right now and you are safe, under a warm blanket, in a room with walls and light, remember this. Your ancestors survived countless nights so you could simply close your eyes in peace.
Now's the time to subscribe to the channel.